Good afternoon folks, welcome to Visordown. My name is Toad and today we are on the launch of Yamaha's new TMAX. Specifically, we have been riding the TMAX Tech Max, which is the top spec version of Yamaha's all-conquering maxi scooter. And the reason that we've been riding this bike and not the standard one is simply because more and more people buy them over the standard bikes. That's in the UK, in Europe and around the world. So it's the most important model in that big capacity sports maxi scoot category for Yamaha, and it has been around a long time. 2001 was when the first one was announced, and we are on the 9th gen of the TMAX. There have been about 11 sports scooters in that range and 340,000 of them sold around the world. So these things, although we don't see many of them in the UK, they are a really big deal for Yamaha, especially in places like France, Italy, Spain and across the rest of Europe as well. People get these in a way that we don't in the UK. So they've given it a bit of a fettle. I was lucky enough to be on the last launch of the previous generation TMAX a couple of years ago. So I've got some memories of riding that bike, which has been really important for me to retain those for this test today. And what has changed with the bike? Well, first and foremost, there's the visual update, which has given it a bit of a refresh. You can still instantly tell that it's a TMAX, but the front end has been smartened up. So if you look at the front end from the side, it's been made a little bit shorter and a little bit more stout. The screen remains where it always was, and so do the handlebars. So it's just been sort of thinned down at the front end, but made a bit more aerodynamic and to help get the weather around you. Inside there, we've still got the same 47 horsepower 560cc engine, which is pumping out around about 40 pounds-foot of torque. It's a parallel twin cylinder CVT gearbox, so it's not like the Honda NC750 where you can click through the gears and use an automated system. But there are changes in there, and that's where primarily most of the changes are. So the engine has been updated with a new clutch. So they've changed the balance weights within the clutch, and they've also changed the springs as well. And the whole reason behind that was to make the first initial application of the throttle a little bit smoother when you're pulling away as the CVT engages. We've also got a new exhaust system. So to get around the Euro 5 Plus regulations, there's TIG welding in the exhaust manifolds, and they've also changed the muffler design so that the packing within the muffler is a little bit smoother to help the airflow as it goes through the bike, keep the noise down and keep the gases down as well. We've got new intake funnels which have been done to sort of change the sound of the bike and also to increase its efficiency, and we have got tweaked cruise control system as well for this year. So whereby the other bike you could only go up in 1 km/h increments if you were increasing or decreasing the speed, on this bike what you can do is you can hold the cruise control button on and it will take you up in 10 km/h increments. So effectively, if you're riding on a highway or a motorway, you can sort of go modulate your speed with the flow of the traffic without really ever using your brakes, which is quite a neat feature. Another change to it is an electronic change, and that is that this has now got Yamaha's brake control, which is kind of like a cornering ABS system fitted to it, which is only fitted to this model in the TMAX range. And there's a few other things that the TMAX Tech Max gets over the standard bike. So this one gets tyre pressure monitoring system, you get the electric screen, you get heated grips, and you get a heated rider's seat, all as standard on this one. There's a nice innovation on this bike as well, which is one thing that we've seen across a few different Yamaha models over the last few years, and that is this has got spin forged wheels, the same as the MT-09, same as the latest generation MT-07, XSR 900 and GP and so on and so forth. But these ones got nice machined edges on them just to make them look a little bit more bling in the Spanish. This bike has got a 15 litre tank. It weighs in at 221 kilograms, which is quite a weight, and it is coming in the UK in ceramic grey, which is the colour that you can see here, or there is a dark magma colour which is almost like a matte charcoaly black colour as well, and it is priced at £14,400 on the road. So I'm going to get into the review really. One of the things that I noticed, and one of the changes with this bike, is the brake control system, because it's sort of revolutionised the ABS. These things it is quite easy to get the ABS triggering as you're going into a downhill hairpin bend, and with the previous bike, which had a traditional ABS system, it sort of, you'd pull the lever, the ABS would cut in, and you sort of lose the brake pressure in the lever, and the lever would come back to the bar, which is a really unnerving feeling as you're hurtling into a downhill hairpin at about 70 miles an hour. What the brake control has done is it's made the modulation of the ABS much smoother. It's much more accurate and precise. Also what happens is the left-hand lever, as you're braking hard into the corner and the ABS triggers, you don't get the lever, the pressure in the lever bleeding away. It actually pushes back into your hand, so you can just grab another handful of it as soon as it's sorted the bike out, which I find a very reassuring feature to have on a bike. And I really enjoyed that today, because there were a lot of instances out on the road where we were riding fairly quickly, not really indicative of how people will use these kind of bikes, but we were pressing on and enjoying its sporty nature, so the ABS was getting triggered quite a bit, and having that reassuring feeling of the pressure in the lever actually seeming to build was quite a nice feature, and I did enjoy it. The engine, like I said, it's little changed really, other than for Euro 5. The sound may have changed a little bit. I don't know if it's got quieter or if it's just got a bit more throaty, but it's really very much the same engine, which is punchy for a CVT gearbox engine, but you do have to get your head around that CVT, especially when you're making overtakes, because what a CVT system does is it sort of takes all the urgency out of the first initial part of an overtake. When you open on the throttle, you have to sort of wait for the engine, the clutch, the CVT system, all of that to sort of spool up to start getting you on your way. And what you have to start doing is sort of preempting your overtake, getting on the gas early, getting out behind the car, and then making your overtake in plenty of time. It's also, and this is one of the things that I took away from the previous TMAX Tech Max launch that I was on a few years ago, such a good handling bike. This is something this length, this size, and of this configuration shouldn't be able to handle as good as it does. It sort of almost reminds me of a Honda Goldwing. That is a big, massive behemoth of a bike. It's long, it's low, and it's heavy, and that should not be able to go around corners quite as well as it should. But it's really very entertaining to ride. It's very entertaining, and it's also got all the attributes that you'd expect of a proper sort of sports bike if you want. You've got excellent poise on the brakes, you've got all the masses and masses of braking power. It almost seems like you'll never be able to out-brake yourself on one of these, no matter how late you leave getting on the brakes. But what you've got is just this fabulously stable front end, and the composure of the bike when you're in fast corners, fast sweeping corners when you pull it onto its side. It really is quite baffling how good it is for the way that it looks, and its size, its length, and its weight. It's very eye-opening indeed. So to sum up the TMAX Tech Max, it's still probably the fastest, the most fun to ride, and arguably the best looking of all the big maxi scooters out there. For a bike of this size and weight, you shouldn't be able to push it as hard in fast sweeping bends as you can, but it can absolutely do it, and it never seems to get flustered or bothered in any way, shape or form. The problem with it is it's expensive though. £14,400 on the road is quite a big investment to make in a motorcycle of any kind, and there are a lot of other options out there for around the £14,500 mark. For a country like the UK, where we still don't really understand maxi scooters, that makes these things a very sort of risky endeavour for people taking their first plunge. But one thing I do know from reviewing the last one and speaking to TMAX owners at different events and reading the comments on YouTube is that once you've had a TMAX and you've ridden it and you've used it in the way that they're meant to be ridden, i.e. commuting through the week and then just enjoying out in the countryside at the weekend, the owners of these really get them and they really fall in love with them, and they are a bike that if you're a TMAX owner, you are very proud to be a TMAX owner. Would I have one on my fleet of bikes? Probably not. There's a few things above and below it, but also we don't really get the climate where a big maxi scooter like this would make sense, whereas down here in Benidorm in Spain, it sort of like makes sense just to be able to hop on the bike and nip out to the cafe in the mountains, go and have some lunch and then pop back again. We don't quite get all the opportunities to do that in the UK that we would like. Well, there we have it. That has been the TMAX Tech Max from Benidorm. I've been Toad for Visordown. If you like that video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our latest videos. And for all the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features, get yourself over to Visordown.com.